The UAW president brings his very different approach out into the open and trashes the latest contract offer. And the primary election makes it a real possibility that the Democratic majority in Lansing could go poof. Today is Sunday, August 13th, 2023, and this is Flashpoint. Hi there, welcome to Flashpoint. Good to have you with us this Sunday morning. We, of course, have been following closely the negotiations between the United Auto Workers and the automakers. And if you saw my conversation with UAW President Shawn Fain a few weeks before the talks began, you knew this was not going to be the usual bargaining process. And in keeping with that unconventional approach, Fain this week took the first offer from Stellantis and tossed it in the trash, while also telling us more about the UAW's demands, things like a 32-hour work week. And once again, we're left to wonder how much of this is theater and how much of this is a telegraph warning that a strike is coming. We will talk about that coming up this morning. We're also going to talk about a very unusual situation in state government, that Democratic majority that took over the Capitol for the first time in 40 years. It allowed the governor to tick off almost everything on her state of the state bucket list, and yet the curtain could close on that majority very quickly. Two Democratic legislators advanced in their mayoral primaries on Tuesday. Should they win in November now, we're back to a tie in the House. We'll talk about that and about those phony electors charged with trying to flip the 2020 presidential election in Michigan today on Flashpoint. All right, let's start with the worries over the possibility of a UAW strike against one, any, or all of the big three. With me to talk about it, senior editor and business columnist for the Detroit News, Daniel Howes, and from Autoline Detroit, John McElroy. As I said off the top of the program, I guess it's left us to try to figure out if whether we're watching theater or we're watching a warning shot over the bow, pointing us to the likelihood, if not the possibility, of a strike. But clearly, John, this is a very different approach where we have demands not just sort of leaking, but being given to the public.
You wanted to start on that?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, it is so new for us. It's new for the media and how to cover it. There's a publisher walks by me in the hall and says, what did Shawn Fain say today? Because it's something new. And we had on Friday we had another exchange where Stellantis, a letter leaked to Stellantis, calling it a losing proposition, and saying that the demands from the union are a losing proposition. I look for a flashpoint right now, no pun intended.
Well done. Well done.
In the Stellantis UAW relationship. I think there's some bad blood there. Shawn Fain comes and some of his people come out of that shop. And Carlos Tavares is a global CEO. He is not a citizen of Detroit or Michigan.
I think what Shawn's doing is extremely effective. The way he's communicating is definitely getting the message out. Look, here the three of us are all talking about it.
Right.
It's being talked about throughout the industry, even across the country. I think what he's doing for his members is terrific for his members. And he's getting the word out. He's showing them what he's doing. He's building support for what he wants to do. And I think the automakers don't know how to counter this yet.
It's so different. In the past, during negotiations, it was a little bit like the capsule going behind the moon and losing contact with Houston. We would all just sort of have to guess at what was going on. The demands that have spilled out, I'm really curious about both of your take on what we're hearing about, for instance, a 32-hour work week. That's just one of the eye-popping sort of findings. In fact, Daniel, you've been doing the math of how many days the average UAW worker would have off.
I've talked to some people at the companies who are looking at this and study. Their teams obviously look at this as soon as they get it. They estimate that it could be up to 100 days off a year. Just the 32-hour work week getting paid for 40, that right there is, depending on your vacation, if you take off 4 weeks of vacation, that may be 48 weeks. So that's an additional potentially 48 days. This is the best of times and the worst of times. These companies have got a lot more money. They are in a position, I think, as John has said, to pay them more. I think they know that.
Shawn Fain has apparently noticed there's a lot of money over there.
The thing that scares the hell out of them is retiree health care and changing pensions. Those are massive, massive liabilities, and I think you would see the industry change dramatically if that were to happen.
I think that's part of Sean's strategy. He's asking for everything and the kitchen sink, which I think is brilliant. You throw everything on the table and then you start negotiating from there
right.
instead of putting a few things on the table and negotiating. And I think he's thrown things out like full defined pensions, 32-hour work week, restoration of the jobs bank, and the like, to scare the automakers, maybe into agreeing to some of the other things that he's after. You know, if they're like, okay, we'll give you more money, but please don't ask for pensions.
I mean, it's pre-2007. I mean, really, what they're trying to restore. I mean, he brings up the jobs bank, which during the bankruptcy, you know, that was the thing that everybody loved to just beat on. How could an industry do that?
Worst optics ever.
Well, yeah, worst optics, but they're talking. They rebranded it though, John.
What do they call it?
It's like the community, family, something or other.
Right.
And I'm reading this thing and say, that's the jobs bank.
I just remember, I was curious as to how China is watching this play out. My first trip to China, I remember talking with a guy who ran a plant that made bearings, and he was explaining that his workers were fighting and demanding to be allowed to work a 7th day because they were working 6 days a week, and to them a 7th day was just a day without pay. I thought, this is a competitive breaking point for, I mean, if this is what we're going to be up against. So I'm curious as to how that plays out because it's an international industry.
What's more important is not what the Chinese think. They're not really in the market here. It's
right.
what Toyota in Kentucky thinks.
There
it's
you
what
go.
Honda in Ohio thinks. It's what Nissan in Tennessee thinks. It's what Hyundai and Kia and Mercedes and Volkswagen and BMW, what they all think. And they're just rubbing their hands with glee because they know that if the UAW gets everything that it wants, or even if it takes the industry down for a strike for several months, they are going to be the ones who win.
And that's something that needs to be. The General Motors made this point, and it was a little line in a release that caught my eye, and saying that we are competing in a largely non-union industry, and John just laid it out for you. And then if you go to companies overseas. Particularly in China. I mean, the Chinese are not here yet, but I would not say they're not coming. I mean, the Chinese are crushing the Western OEMs in China. I saw Jim Farley a couple of months ago, and he just got back from China, and he was just agog at what he'd seen when he was over there. That their product was too big, it was too derivative of gas-powered vehicles. The Chinese were doing a lot of sleek EV-only vehicles with fabulous software inside. And he said, we're totally missing the market. If you look at their numbers, we've actually done this story. You look at their numbers, they're just losing market share right and left. And that's not a good omen for the potentials of them coming to China because they've already gone to Europe and done it.
There's also competition with Tesla, and you were pointing out something before we got started here about what's going on at Tesla right now, which is going to maybe cut in half the number of workers that are required to assemble a vehicle.
That's right. Tesla showed earlier this year a new assembly process that doesn't have an assembly line. They have different modules of the car, the left-hand side module, the right-hand side, the front, the rear, the roof, the floor. And then all these modules come together at the very end, and boom, you got a car. So there's not people walking down the line, hanging parts on a car as it goes down the line. Tesla says it can get rid of half the people in an assembly plant. They're building a plant in Mexico right now to use this process. If it works, and I think it will, I think it makes a lot of sense, every automaker is going to be forced to follow suit to be competitive. And then where does that leave the UAW with the highest labor costs in the business?
So this new process comes with an IKEA Allen wrench, I assume, is how they pull it all together.
Pretty much like that.
But that's the crux of this moment right now for the UAW. This is, I believe, the crux of the strike going on in Hollywood. Short term, trying to figure out how we get from today to tomorrow, and then long term, how we get from 2023 to 2033.
Well, and I think short term, as you're seeing a proliferation of battery plants, the auto industry in the aggregate in the United States is going to grow jobs. But longer term, I think if you talk to people, they say after 2030, we don't know what this is going to look like because of what John's talking about. But also, we don't know what the take rate in the market's going to be and what demand is going to be like. And if demand is good and strong, I think then things will work out potentially a little better. But this is a bet that the union is making. They know that they have to shape the contours of what the next, say, 8 years looks like. And that's why it's so important to them to get the battery plants organized, to get those into the National Master Agreement where they're paying them $32 an hour and not $16 an hour.
Lastly, I guess I've worried whether or not Shawn Fain is painting himself a little bit into a corner and then can't strike. Right? Once you've got the jaws set of your membership with these Facebook Lives and all of this outreach gets to an effective point where maybe you feel like you kind of gotta. So I guess where are you both feeling right now? We're still about a month away from the end of the contract. Where do you both feel we are on the likelihood of strikes?
Look, I've said before, I'm not a betting person. I would put money on the fact there's going to be a strike. I think politically within the union, Shawn Fain has to have a strike. He's got to show his members that he's not just talking tough, he took those companies to the mat. And if there's not a strike, there's going to be people, especially within his base, very vociferous, very energized, very angry, who are going to say, you didn't go far enough. You should have pushed harder.
Does that sound right, Dan?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, he's going to have to deliver. I think there will be a strike, at least against one of the companies, because he doesn't have a lot of options at this point.
Great conversation, guys. We will. We'll talk about it again. We could go on and on, that's for sure. Thanks for being here so much. Appreciate it. We come back, we'll talk about some interesting fallout from this past week's primary election, which could end up scuttling the Democratic majority in Lansing. This is Flashpoint on Local 4. Welcome back. I'll point out again, there has been no summer recess for political news this year, whether it's charges in the phony electors case, continued sniping inside the Michigan GOP, and the primary election that suddenly throws the Democratic majority in the Michigan House into some peril. Let's talk about that with pollster from Mitchell Research, Steve Mitchell, back with us again. Steve, good to see you. Assistant editorial page editor at the Detroit News, Caitlin Buss, is back with us as well. Political director at Michigan Radio is Zoe Clark, and political strategist from Adolph Mongo and Associates, the serendipitously named Adolph Mongo. Great to have you guys all here. Zoe, let me start with you. This is a really weird situation to have two people who just ran for their House seats turn around to run for these mayoral seats. And after everything that Governor Whitmer was able to tick off of her wish list in the State of the State address, because she had a majority.
Because she has a very small majority.
Small one, but enough to get it through.
Indeed.
And all of a sudden, these two, both Lori Stone and Kevin Coleman, both won in their primaries in both Westland and Warren, and it could all go just because of that.
It could. I mean, so let's put this into context. These were large primaries. Both of these candidates came in second, but that does mean it is going to move forward come November. And there is a possibility that we could see a 54-54 state house for a couple months. It is up to the discretion of, one Gretchen Whitmer, whoever the governor is at the time, to get to call special elections afterwards. It is likely that she would do that very quick, but there could possibly be a period of time again where the Ds don't have as much power as they have had for this short period of time.
I actually got to talk to the governor about this up in Sutton's Bay a few weeks ago. I asked her about the possibility of this coming. Here's what she said.
Well, a little, dismayed to see kind of those announcements, but by the same token, that's what happens. Those are communities that, will get representation if whether it continues with these legislators or they move on to municipal offices, and we have to have a special election and have new ones. We'll see what happens, but I don't think that'll slow down the work that we're doing in Lansing at all.
Oh, well, maybe. We'll see. But she said dismayed, Adolph, and I guess that's my question. These two just ran for these House seats. Is that cool to turn around and run for mayor right after that?
No, but they do it all the time.
Of course.
I see it all the time. Somebody get elected, and 2 months later, they're running for another office. Listen, Granholm got elected Attorney General. As soon as she got in, she was running for governor. They play this game. The governor is running for something. President, vice president, everybody's running for something.
She insists she's not.
Mike Duggan is running for something. Everybody's running for something. I'm not surprised. I don't think both of them going to win.
Well, that's the question,
well,
right?
Here's what happens now, Caitlin. I assume just in the same way the Democrats all of a sudden supported John Gibbs, I imagine Republicans all of a sudden have some candidates to support in Westland and Warren.
Sure. It's a fun little present, I think. And I don't know that Democrats thought they'd be tested quite so quickly on their agenda. But at the same time, it backs up the fact that they did push much of it through very quickly. But we'll see what happens. I imagine, like has been said, Whitmer will go to refill these seats pretty quickly. And they'll have to be, Republicans are probably looking to maybe get through a couple of policies where they can bring them to the middle here, because as of right now, even if a Democrat is sick, they almost can't vote on stuff. So no matter what, they have a slim majority, and it's a tenuous situation.
But Steve, in the old days, before the law was changed, this would have meant there would have been a swap of leadership in the House. Right now, the way that they changed the rules, Joe Tate would remain the Speaker of the House even in a tie situation, but still, the Republicans would have a lot more leverage.
Yeah, obviously with a tie vote, they would have a lot more leverage. Again, if you look at this, both of them came in second, one by 4 points, the other by 5 points. If I'm the incumbent mayor in Westland, Londo, or if I'm George Demas, I'm sending letters to all of the Democrats saying, do you want to lose majority in Lansing? Vote for Lori Stone and vote for Kevin Coleman. Conversely, they could be sending them, the other side could be sending them to the Republicans saying, if you vote for the other way. But I think at the end of the day, there is a long period of time, if they did both get elected, between when there would be a majority, because all the new laws require so much time. 45 days to do this, 45 days to do that. You're looking at a 6-month period of time when the Democrats would be stalled. But again, they've passed most of the items that they wanted. All the big ticket items have already been passed by the Democrats, and this would be a bump in the road for them.
A lot got through there. Zoe, this next, though, collision course, it's been boiling now for months, and it looks like the Democrats aren't really willing to back down, and that's this idea of moving the primary. Of course, Democrats, everybody in Michigan wishes that we had a more prominent role in the national conversation, get Iowa and New Hampshire.
Love us.
Love us.
Yeah.
But is it, if you're disenfranchising a bunch of Republican voters, which is the way it would look because of RNC rules, should the Democrats move that primary?
Right, and so some of this has to do with whether or not they decide to end the session early.
Right.
And again, if we did see a 54-54, there might be a little bit more reason to do that. I don't think anyone in Lansing who says that they know whether or not session is going to end early. We just don't. We got to wait and see. But it could end early, and it would mean that the law would suddenly go into effect in time for this to change in February.
So, Adolph, Democrats in control, you just say, sorry, Republicans, tough. This is how it works. We're moving our primary, and if you can't move yours,
you know what?
Too bad.
That's too bad. You know what? We look at Iowa and New Hampshire and saying, how do they become the big players on the scene? And when you look at what's in those states, they don't represent me. They don't represent folks in Michigan. The Democrats played around with these primaries before. When George Wallace hijacked the Democratic primary in '72, they changed the rules. So to the victors goes the spoils.
Well, and
so
it was not that long ago, with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, but you mess around and you find out.
They kept him off the
this side of the table may disagree. Let me see.
There's no doubt in my mind that it's going to go exactly as they are now. The primaries will be on February 27th. The Republicans have this plan in which they're going to let only, some of the delegates elected on that day, and they're going to select others. That's in violation of Rule 16CA and as well as 16.1C and 16.1A.
Good recall, Professor.
Both of those say that they can't do it that way. But no, the Democrats will not back off. And the House doesn't make any difference because the immediate effect comes out of the Senate, and that's where it's hung up. And I talked to a major leader in the Senate today who said no, he fully expects that they're going to sine die, adjourn early, and that way they'll be able to have the convention.
Caitlin, I keep with the conversation every time I have this with an elected Democratic official. I've asked the governor about it. I've asked a number of lawmakers about it. Once you're elected, it's true, you are a Democrat, but you also now represent all of the Republicans in your state or your district. And it may not be in your best interest to see them lose their, be disenfranchised of their vote, right?
Yeah, I think there's no, this was a very political move. This was a very partisan move. And I think as, some subset of the Republican Party is already suspicious of voting, this only plays into that. And I think, obviously Democrats want that to dampen their turnout. But I think this plays into the narrative in a really poor way. And it doesn't represent all Michigan voters. I mean, there was no facade of that, I don't think.
Steve, I wanted to talk about then the broader outlook, long-term outlook here. We've had 3 polls done recently in Michigan about the presidential race. You did one of them. All of them show that it's either tied or within the margin of error between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Even though we now have this slate of phony electors up on charges, and even though we have this bizarre breakdown right now of a very poor, apparently, Republican Party in the state of Michigan, you expect this to be close?
It's going to be a very close race. It's going to be Biden and Trump, and it's going to be a very close race. It's going to go all the way down to the end. Unlike a lot of states like Arizona, Florida, and Ohio, where there's abortion proposals, Michigan did that in 2022 so that the Democrats can't hang on that one. So in Michigan, this will be a very close presidential race, and therefore a U.S. Senate race, too, given the fact that it looks like Mike Rogers will get in against Slotkin. So I think it's going to be a close election.
Kayla, I keep saying, in a country of 350 million people, we're down to 2 men that apparently nobody really seems to want to run. But are you convinced it'll be Trump and Biden?
I think it probably will be, and I just want to say how remarkable that is. I mean, I don't think that any of us thought in 2020 that would be the case.
Everyone in 2020 was like, let's do this again.
I mean, it's really quite remarkable.
Said no one ever.
Right.
But I think both sides are banking on turnout because there's just so much swirling, but they're not even, they know that the presidential race will turn people out one way or another.
We got Grandpa, that's Joe Biden, and we got one flew over the cuckoo nest, that's Donald Trump. And listen, if the Democrats had their way, it wouldn't be Biden. But who do they have? It has to be Biden. Yeah. And if the Republicans had their way, it would be anybody but Donald Trump. But he hijacked the Republican Party, and Biden got a hold of the Democrats. So here we are again. We got the rematch, the Rumble in the Jungle. Only Muhammad Ali is 60, and Joe Frazier is 75. So this is what we're dealing with.
We want to see that fight.
No, you don't want to.
30 seconds left, Zoe. Apparently, there is no amount of indictments that are too much to sway Republicans.
No, and in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if he just is one more indictment away from actually winning this. So, I mean, it seems like he's sort of like, bring it on at this point.
So you think this is where we're headed to?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, look, we're still a long way away. Like, let's just all put that out there. And events can change and anything can happen. But right now, that's what it seems like.
Got it. All right, got to take a break. Gang, thanks so much for the conversation. Back with more. We'll wrap things up for Flashpoint right after this on Local 4.
To 8. Get up and go with Rhonda Walker weekday mornings on Local 4 News.
Quick trivia question. I bet you all remember exactly where you were 20 years ago tomorrow.
On August 12th.
It was the Great Blackout.
Oh!
We hit the 20th anniversary.
How has that been 20 years already?
I know, and we'll be covering that tomorrow on Local 4 News. I hope you'll be with us then. Meet the Press coming up next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Flashpoint.